Do you say it hodler or hodler?
I say hodler.
So do I. I think
Okay.
that's
I've heard somebody Genghis or somebody called not I think it was Genghis called me hodler
yeah. Um,
in a video, yeah.
it sounds better, right? PapaHodler. I think it just sounds much better.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
Hey everyone, excited for our next big guest today. Many of you have successfully guessed who it is from the teaser. And coming from server 841, we have Papa Hodler. So I stumbled upon Papa Hodler when he shared a massive solo report on a 9 billion player, which you guys all saw in that teaser. And so I went to go look him up and I uncovered this origin story. So it apparently this was Tay's original server, and it seems you might be his Evony dad. So, are you Evony? Are you Tay's Evony Papa? And did you raise him to be a villain or hero? That's a two-part question.
uh I'll claim myself as Tay's Ebony Papa for the time being. Did I raise him to be a hero or a villain? In all honesty, he was the one that taught me how to play the game.
Wow.
And he definitely encouraged me at the beginning to be more of a villain than a hero. Um, so did I encourage him to be a villain or a hero? It's kind of the other way around.
I kind of figured. I kind of figured that. And then, all jokes aside, how did you pick your name?
So my original name was just Hodler, which I picked because I'm into the crypto space, and in the crypto space, a hodler is basically just somebody that holds on to Bitcoin and doesn't sell it. Um, the Papa part came in a little bit later, probably about I don't know, 8 weeks into the server. I was the biggest player on the server, and we were just joking back and forth. And he's like, "You should call yourself Papa." So I did. I switched it to Papa Hodler, and then I made it Big Papa Hodler. Um, but then there was some drama on the server, so I changed it to the notorious BPH, the notorious Big Papa Hodler. And when I did that, somebody on a different server snagged Big Papa Hodler, and I've never been able to change it back since. So I've stuck with Papa Hodler since then.
I love the name. It's awesome.
My favorite is I think it's it's the Italian and the Portuguese players. Papa translates to Pope, so they call me Pope anytime in the translation, which is kind of fun.
That's awesome. All of the SBS chats, you're the pope to them. So I like obviously, do we want to talk about Bitcoin right now or do we want to talk about Ebony first? And then we can talk about
We can talk about whatever you want in whatever order you want.
Okay. All right. You know what? I kind of want to save the Bitcoin for later. So I'm going to
Let's
jump.
save it.
Okay. All right. So let's go into this server drama because I my interest is so peaked on it because I'm coming from a server that had drama and I'm finally realizing that it's just time for me to pack up and leave. So can you tell us about your server drama on 841?
Sure, sure. Our server drama goes back really to the first question that you asked. So back in the day, maybe the third or fourth throne rotation. So we hadn't even played SVS yet. We our alliance BTC, we had the power on the server. There's nobody could have taken the throne without our permission. So we'd struck a deal with another alliance foe that we do a throne rotation. And we decided to do a red wedding on the second week of the throne rotation, steal a whole bunch of subs and deny the guy his wings. And, so we kind of created that drama. I was a new player at the time. I was following Tay's lead on it.
Oh my God,
Um,
Tay read that.
not to skate responsibility. I made the ultimate decision on it. But and so that was kind of the start of the drama. And then it's just kind of always gone back and forth between us and foe ever since then. Now the drama's a little bit different. I'm hoping we're done with the whole faux BTC thing because it's just kind of getting to the point of ridiculousness.
Yeah.
But now there's complaints mostly around server rules, and it's there's a lot of people that want to give information on the server rules or want to give feedback on the server rules. But then when I ask questions, they don't always reach back to me. They don't always give input until a rule is made or changed, and then they just want to complain about it. So then there's just a lot of arguing in world chat. Just about server rules mostly now. They don't like the fact that I make it a Bob server. That's kind of one of the big things. But I'm a big fan of the Bob server personally.
Okay, why are you a fan of that?
Well, it's a war game, so we should play war. Um, so we had a guy on our server, RCK, who's a small player, a farm to play player, but he's arguably one of the top 5 players on the server, top 10 in SVS and in PvP just in general. But he got made KOS for some stuff that he did, and he was KOS for like I don't know 2 maybe 3 months. And over that time of him being KOS and getting zeroed constantly, he became really really good.
Mhm.
He got his wings late, probably I would say within the last 6 months, at a 230 million player,
Wow.
and he's consistently in the top 5. If he can play, sometimes he obviously doesn't have time to play, but he's consistently in top 5 or one of the top performers, positive points on the server. So I looked at that. We'd been losing SVS, God, I don't even know, just continually.
Wow.
So I'm like, listen, we're gonna be a Bob server until we win SVS. But I knew we would get rid of some of the players that were just there to farm. Half of my alliance left because they didn't want the Bob. But what we got left with is, people that are actually there to play. There to play a war game. And they kind of just, they're not just there to take up resources and waste people's time. And we've done much better since then. We're on a bit of a SVS streak right now. Still have a lot of room to improve, but it helped a lot. So I like to keep it going. We tried to do the nap thing again, instantly lost SVS once we did that.
Wow.
So I went back to a different kind of a Bob strategy. So we were doing one every Monday was our nap day. Now if we lose SVS, there's no nap for 2 weeks. If we win SVS, we have a nap till KE and then a nap the following Monday.
I like that.
And anytime I made we didn't go from nap or complete Bob to that. There was like steps in the way, and we tried stuff out. And every time I changed the rules, people started freaking out because I didn't give enough notice or whatever the case may be. And that's again, that's where most of our drama comes from.
Would you say that your alliances, so you would say that there's only kind of two alliances that are high performing, but they're in conflict with each other? Is that kind of?
No, that was the case early on. That's
Mhm.
not the case anymore. So, Tay was in my alliance for a little while. I tried to make him R5, to be honest with you, and he kind of pushed it on me. And then about I don't know, maybe three All Stars ago, maybe we broke off into 2 separate alliances. Tay and I did to make it easier for him to get the All Stars, and some other people took that lead. So we kind of broke up into some smaller different alliances, and um, some players have come back to BTC to our alliance. Tay obviously being one of them, and some others have just kind of stayed separate. So I'd say we have you know, 4 pretty solid, decent, active alliances on our server. JB1, Foe, and PoE. Um, and then the other ones, we have a couple other smaller ones that are, I would say, on the cusp, but they're 40 million smaller than the next closest guy, sort of a thing,
Right, right.
or 40 billion.
And do you guys do challenge separately or do you guys merge together for that?
We've done both. So the first time we qualified for Shallons, we actually missed the main group of Shallons, so we were in like the elite round or whatever it was, and that was definitely the full alliance. The second time, same thing. By the third time, everybody had broken up and come back together. And this time, I'm not asking anybody to come that doesn't want to come and stay. I'm not necessarily interested in guests anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I totally hear that. We tried to do the combining for challenge and just was not it didn't I didn't feel it. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like if you're gonna go in as a team, you should just be a team, like from the start. So I don't know.
Well, the original when we broke up to do the All Stars, the goal was to come back for Shallon, so that happened, and then some more people than originally were there came, and then it ended up fracturing off again. which is good. It's nice to have a little bit of power spread throughout the server and not in one. Plus time zone differences. I mean, some of the reasons that people split off is they're literally on the opposite side of the world as we are. So they just they the times for the battlefields didn't always work for them, so they were missing battlefields altogether,
Yeah,
as
that's
opposed
true.
to getting a chance to participate in them.
Yep, yep, for sure. Yeah, it's always interesting. Like I definitely was a believer in partitioning the power in the very beginning because you want to get as many players as possible to power up. But I think that a lot of players also got spoiled into kind of just being carried. And so having a nap server, I think really did kind of, you know, put the nail in the coffin in a way where I actually believe in nap, but I think it has to be like there has to be a fear proponent involved, or people will just, socialize and just go along for the free ride, but they don't actually participate in the PvP aspect, which is kind of the most important part of the game if you're, serious about the war strategy part. But yeah. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there was we were a nap server, I guess, for the first probably almost year, maybe a little less. Um, and people were able to grow, but at a certain point in time, you got to learn how to actually play the game.
yep, yep.
I'm a fan of a nap at the beginning. I'm also a fan of like, hey, we're gonna take a month and we're gonna do a nap so everybody can have a bunch of growth. I'm fine with that stuff, but I think every server should be more of a Bob server than a nap server the majority of the time.
And you guys are on continent 4, is that?
Yeah.
So how is the competition on there? Because we just got kicked down to continent 4, but how is your competition in your SVSs?
Uh, for us, if we're playing SVS, we're usually playing a C3 or C2 server. I think we've occasionally had a C1, but it's usually C3, C2. And so we're usually playing with some bigger servers. Not always, but usually. But the power in me is concentrated. So they're like, there's like 3, 10, 15 billions where they don't necessarily have that one big keep.
Right.
On for the competition's pretty good. When Hammer and Louise were playing, there was a lot of good competition on four. Last All Stars, though, I'll be honest, man, it was like a bunch of new people that I don't even remember or recognize before. So I think there's either people that have come down from C5 that are now going to play in C4, and just some people that were there that finally decided to figure out the game, I guess, and they've kind of stepped up quite a bit. So um, overall, though, I'd say the competition is pretty solid, especially for Shallons. Um, you got I think it's WDF. I can't remember the guy's name, uh, but he's left the game, but they've still kind of held that position as being number one. I think they've
Oh,
won every
Oliver. Oliver. Yeah.
Oliver Q, yeah, Oliver. So I think they're going to be real tough. Imperium is on C4. I think they're pretty tough, and then Drunk Adams team's pretty good. There's a few more, but those three I think are the ones that I'm most looking out for. We'll see.
Cool. And I would say, okay, so we talked about this. So you have accounts for sale on your server. What are you looking for when you're recruiting players?
I want somebody that's going to do PvP and that wants to actually participate and help us out. We got a 5 billion account that's for sale right now that was in our alliance, then left our alliance, and I have control over it at the moment to find somebody to play it. But I do. I want somebody that's willing to just help us out in the areas that we need help. And if we can get another one or two 10Bs in our alliance, I think we'll start to really shine in challenge and SVS and some of the other events.
Do you find it hard to build that type of team up? Or because like for me, I knew that this was never going to be it was, it never was going to happen on the server that I was at. Do you feel like on your server you do have that foundation where you guys will have that possibility?
So so that's for me, that's one of the challenges of the game. That's one of the puzzles I want to solve is I want to take a server and make something of that server.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that challenge. It's difficult. I've been asked to go to some other servers and join some other alliances, and I mean, I feel like there's a dream team that was formed in WDF with some solid players. But I really do. One, it's hard for me to walk away from my keep.
Yep.
I mean, it's I feel pretty well built and didn't have to start over or try to build it back up to that again. I mean, that's quite a challenge.
Right.
But I like the people that there's some really good players on our server, both in my alliance and not in my alliance. And again, I let what can I do? You know, it's easy to build a dream team and everybody go to one server. It's another thing to make your own thing on your own server. And I find that challenge just as fun as the rest of the game itself.
That's a great answer. I really like that answer. And Huntress kind of said the same thing in her interview where she said, you can if you have the people, and you can motivate the people, you can make that team. You don't have to go other places. But I do think it is one of those things where you have to be able to discern if you have that foundation. But I think you guys do. So I think that's awesome. What would you like the devs to know? Or just one thing you would like them to know?
I think that they need to have more cross-server PvP experience. I think they should have an SVS. No, I'm sorry, not an SVS. A All Stars Ultimate, where you take the top 25 or 50, whatever the right math is, players from the All Stars competition from all the continents and dump them into one Ultimate All Stars competition. Because the only time I could go against a player like Thing or Genghis is if it's an SVS, and that's probably not going to happen for a little bit because their power is just the imbalance of power is just so great.
Right.
Where if we could do an All Stars Ultimate, now I can either play with or play against either of those players cross server, and then you get a true like Evony champion, not just a continent champion, but a true Evony champion.
I love that.
Um, I also would like to see a cross server competition where you know, I can pick 5 players anywhere on the server, somebody else can pick 5 players on the server, and, we go at it in some way, shape, or form. Most of the cross server games they have are like Huns, which we haven't even done in over a year, but, I mean, they're kinda silly in my opinion. There's nothing really fun about them. They're just, everybody's just pushing a couple of buttons and then, something's being calculated, nobody knows what or how.
Right. The Ultimate sounds like such an amazing idea because I know everybody would watch that, number 1, but number 2, it's like such a smart marketing tool for Evony because all the whales would be playing, you know? So,
No, absolutely.
yeah.
And that would, I guess, be my second thing that I would recommend to Ebony is I think they need to make the game watchable. I don't necessarily know how that's accomplished because it's obviously real time, so you don't necessarily want to have a website where everybody can see the full map and everything that's going on at the same time, unless there's like a huge delay on it. But I do think people will pay to watch this stuff. Clearly there's, professional gamers. And I think Ebony needs to pay attention to that aspect of it, make it so that their game can be watchable from Twitcher or whatever. And I think that'll grow the game. And I also think it'll grow the spend. If a guy can get a bunch of views and get some sponsorships or make some money, he's just going to spend more money.
Exactly. Definitely. And do you have any advice overall for the Evony community?
Um, know what kind of keep you want to build and build towards that kind of keep. Come up with a game plan for what you want to accomplish with your keep. Do you want to be a trap keep? Do you want to be a big power keep? Do you want to be a small keep that's gonna, just piss people off going in and out of, powers or whatever? But whatever the plan is, whatever you want to build your keep, like think about it and then start to build that way. And especially if you're smaller or newer, focus on your buildings and not the troops.
Yep.
Focus on the troops more towards the end. Otherwise, they're going to die along the way, and you're just going to spend a lot of resources building them back up because your other key components of the game aren't going to be up to where they need to be.
Absolutely, I can't agree with you more. That is how I built. So I went to 40. I did everything on boosts and stats and all that kind of stuff first, and was able to really compete in majors, all stars, and of course, like now I would build troops, right? But in the very, very beginning, it was very smart to do that. So I'm glad to hear somebody else that's actually like a big player say that, because a lot of people say just build the troops. But I think those are for people that are concentrating on being like filling for battlefields rather than kind of leading. So maybe that's also
Even then, you need to pay attention to the way you're building your troop. But a lot of people they don't they'll build a bunch of T1s when they're not ready to be a T1 trap,
right.
and all you are free points. I love it, and they're easy to find. You know, but that's what a lot of people do. Like the T1 traps, kind of like the big thing. Everybody's trying to build it, but they don't have the resources to do the big bill and get 500 million all at one time. So they're doing it over time, and then one SVS, they get all their troops wiped out. One KE, they end up getting all their troops wiped out.
They meet somebody like you who one shots them.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's true. I've definitely been on the other side of some cuss outs because I've zeroed somebody during SVS before.
All right.
I've been zeroed too, though.
Have you?
Ichiro zeroed me. Ichiro and Valhalla. The first SVS we got conquered. Should have been the only one, but that's a different story. I got zeroed. I was like 8 billion at the time. I ran out of source of life with like 3 or 4 billion still to heal. It was awful.
Yeah, that's painful. That is also why I didn't build up troops, because I really love SVS, so I never really had to worry about source of life, but I might have to when I move on. So is there anything else you want to talk about Evony? Because I did want to cover a little bit of Bitcoin, so anything else on Evony topics?
Yeah, nothing in particular. I enjoy the game. I hope everybody enjoys the game too. Don't take it so personal. Some people, I would say that, but yeah, that's about it.
I think Tay gets his feelings hurt when he gets hate mail.
That's hilarious. I'll have to ask him about that. Tay and I, by the way, have actually met in real life. He's been to my poker game that I host in my office here, and so actually, I do know the guy a little bit beyond the game itself.
It's so cute. It's like you're like his papa, and now you're his real life best friend. It's so cute. I love the story. It's a great
There you
story.
go.
So, talking about Bitcoin, so when you were saying that like you bought Bitcoin and then you just held it. So, I have an opposite story. So, I went to the San Jose 2013 conference and I picked up a lot of Bitcoin for $75. And I was going with like a guy that I was dating at the time, and they were setting up a booth and doing all this stuff, and it was freaking amazing to see that much I just like brain power and talent all in one place. And I remember seeing like the von Winklevoss twins and all of the people that
Yeah.
now you see, in Bitcoin. And I remember seeing the guy, the CEO from Mount Gox, and he was getting interviewed by a bunch of reporters, and he was like in this sharp suit and all this kind of stuff, right? And then of course, you know what happened with Mount Gox, like that it got hacked for 400 million, and that was like,
Yep. Yep.
it was crazy. So my experience of Bitcoin was like, I don't know, this is very unstable, right? Because like I saw the beginnings of it and it was amazing and all of this, just I can't even explain it to you. Like it was probably like one of the top 10 highlights of my life, looking back at like just the amazingness of it. But there was also just, there's also a very dark cloud about it too. And then China like banned it. And so at the time it was about $800. And I was just kind of like, I don't think I don't think this is gonna take off anymore. And so I sold the majority of mine. Um, so that's my story. So it's a sad story, but like you are lucky because you had the opposite, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
I still have my disappointed story. So I've been into Bitcoin in the sense that I'd been learning about it since 2010. I
Wow.
used to go to Bitcoin meetups in Atlanta all the time. And I wanted to buy Bitcoin. I had, I think, 10 grand I wanted to invest. I was going to buy some Bitcoin at 12 cents a piece.
What?
I couldn't figure out how to buy it. I ended up buying vending machines instead, which I took a loss on. But yeah, no, I wanted to buy Bitcoin. Collecting coins and currency and money as a invention is kind of a hobby and that I like to learn about. And I've always been very interested in Bitcoin because of its, it hits all the characteristics of money. It's fungible, portable, divisible, all the different characteristics. And I do think it's a superior form of money. And in a digital world like we live in right now, you would need digital money.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin's the first instance of digital money. A lot of people don't understand what I mean by that because they think, I've been, using PayPal for a long time. Am I not just sending money digitally? Well, that's exactly what you're doing. You're taking fiat money and you're sending it digitally. Bitcoin's a true native digital currency.
Right.
And it fascinated me. So finally in 2015, I did get an opportunity to buy my first Bitcoin for $203,
Wow.
a little bit more than 12 cents. And I also put up an auto buy when I made that first purchase of $8.88 a day. And that auto buy has been in effect up to this day. I've increased it from 888 to a little bit more now, but that's actually been a pretty solid return. I was able to buy some payroll software, um, but most of it I've held, and I don't have any intentions of getting rid of it anytime soon. And I continue to acquire and stack my Sats to prepare because I do think that with the way we're doing things economically, I do think that this is a long term win. And so far, it's proven to be so. If you look at it from its inception to where it's at now, regardless of the roller coaster.
Right.
But I'm a huge firm believer in it. I think everybody should buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin specifically, I used to be into the altcoins. Not a big fan of them anymore. I have some Ethereum still. I have some Dash and some Litecoin and some other stuff that I bought way back in the day.
Yeah.
Um, but Bitcoin, I mean, I'm definitely a Bitcoin maximalist at this point, and if I'm buying anything new, it's definitely going to be Bitcoin. That could always change. Something new can come along. But I do think Bitcoin's the big winner in all this when it's all said and done.
Definitely. And did you ever get into NFTs at all?
I have. I think MFTs are garbage, to be honest with you. All an NFT, in my understanding of how NFTs works, do is it confers ownership. So basically, I don't need to have an NFT to say I own something. I could have a copyright or a contract written up that confers ownership on me. So I like when everybody's buying these like $900,000 monkeys. I mean, it's really no different than you buying a $900,000 piece of artwork from an artist, and you have full control over the licensing of that piece of artwork after that transaction has happened. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything particularly special from an investment perspective about NFTs. Now, I do think NFTs have a certain utility.
Yeah.
So with the NFTs, an artist can get paid every time that thing is resold, whether it's a crazy monkey or statue, whatever that NFT is attached to, based off of how the smart contracts are put into place. So in that way, I think it's good that an artist can get, a bit of residual on something that's typically, a one and done situation.
Yeah.
But there's a huge risk to NFTs that people don't realize, right? So an NFT technically could confer ownership of your house, right? You could have that you own this house up in the blockchain, but what happens if you lose your private keys?
Right.
Your house is now stuck on the blockchain. You can't transfer it to anybody.
Yep.
And so you end up, the natural consequence being you need to have a third party verification service, which for homes currently is the government at some level. So I do think that there's some potential with NFTs. I do think that the utility is somewhat limited outside of simply conferring ownership. Where I do think NFTs are good is like voting. your ballot could be an NFT. And now, every election, you have your secret code, so your private keys, so you can verify that you voted the way you voted.
Yeah.
Everybody has access to the blockchain, so everybody can then review everybody's vote, not necessarily knowing who voted for who,
Yep.
but they can review everybody's vote. They can add it up and come to the whatever the same number is that everybody else did. So for something like that, I think an NFT would be a great use case for.
Right.
I think for art and transferring of digital goods, I think there's a use case there. But again, I don't think it's anything special beyond just a regular contract or a regular agreement that gives you license over whatever that piece of art is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that got into NFTs, they were approaching it from a very 2D angle when it's supposed to be kind of like a multi-angle. A lot of people were coming from Wall Street finance, e-commerce and trying to sell digital art that you really can't do anything with. And I think you're absolutely right with the utility aspect of it. And especially like I like games, right? You like games. We all like games. And look at how
Mhm.
much you guys spend on these skins, right? Like it would make more sense to actually, partner with an IP, like something, a big game. I don't, what's a big game? Grand Theft Auto, something like that. And you could actually have skins there that are bought through NFTs that actually then can be redeemed in a game. You can use your token, that kind of thing. But it has to be something that already has a value to it to add to it. And even people were saying like you could sell your accounts, like on an NFT marketplace where that stuff can get tracked and all that kind of stuff. But it is interesting that people are totally missing out on the utility aspect of it, which is so important. So, yeah,
That's
no.
where the real value is of the NFTs, in my opinion. It's the utility of them. There's some hiccups, right? Again, you lose your private keys. Nobody owns that thing anymore.
Right.
Nobody can license it out. Nobody can do anything with it. It's locked. So I don't know. Maybe it becomes open domain at that point, and it just sucks to be you. Keep track of your private keys. But
Exactly.
there's more utility to it than just that. I mean, boardroom votes. Even a boardroom vote could use an NFT. It doesn't have to necessarily be a big election. It could be your small elections too. I believe Patientory, which is like a altcoin back in the day. I don't even think it exists anymore. Concept was good, execution not so much. But basically, they take your medical records, and you can make your medical record, an NFT, so that now you have every time your medical records happen, each one is an individual NFT, and then that information could be combined together to give you your full report of your medical history. So there's utility in different areas, but okay, I'm glad you own this crazy monkey. I can copy and paste it and do whatever I want with it. What are you gonna do? Sue me? I mean, it just you own the art, but whatever. And the monkeys were cool, man. I was jealous that somebody had it. I don't know. I think it was more. I think originally NFTs were a status thing, and you had a bunch of early adopters of Bitcoin that made just an obscene amount of money,
Yeah.
and they wanted to show off that success by buying these stupid monkeys for $900,000 or 100 Ethereum, whatever they were going for at the time.
I made a little bit of a profit off of some NFTs by selling some digital baseball cards, but that was about it. So that was my
There's
only.
money to be there's money to be made there. I mean, people make money off of those stupid poppets, but those poppets are still stupid at the end of the day. And I got 40 of them at my house because every time we go somewhere, my kids buy a new one. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I know I'm kind of saying NFTs, it's kind of dumb, but there was money to be made there, and some people took advantage of it. That
Yeah.
one I happen to miss,
Yeah.
and I'm okay that I missed it, to be honest.
No, it's, you're good. I think you're good. Um, Awesome. Well, I had such a great time chatting with you. I would like love to just talk to you about like the Bitcoin and digital space forever, but I do know that on the video, the teaser with you on it, there were people that were interested in wanting to join you just because of, all of that kind of stuff. So, I don't, is there a way for them to connect with you? I guess just add you in the game or message you in the game if they're
Yeah,
interested in.
I would say inbox me in the game.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you send a friend request to somebody and they don't accept it, they're counted as one of your friends. So I'm at like 230 or 50, and I can't add anymore.
Okay.
So inbox me, and then I can share my Discord, and then we can talk that way where it's a little bit easier.
Okay, that sounds awesome. And then we should just like make a crypto Evony community. I think that would be amazing.
That would be awesome. I mean, there's a guy on my server. His name's Satoshi.
I saw.
So I know I'm not the only one.
I thought maybe he was the real Satoshi, but he probably would have a 45 by now. So
Yeah, he'd have a 45, 200 billion by now if that were the case.
that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I enjoyed this interview immensely. So thank you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
All
Have a good
right.
one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.